Krishna, Krishna. Okay, we are live on Facebook, and I think we are ready to go. Let me just check to see the microphone set up. Whoops. Hold on a second. There we go. Hello. Hello, everybody. Okay, we're ready to go. So we're going to chant Jai Radha Madhava first. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Gopi Jana Malabha Girivaradhati Gopi Jana Malabha Girivaradhati Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhati Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhati Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. So Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravidacharya, also Tada Sitashi Shimad, His Divine Grace Abhaya Chandana Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha, Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Radha Krishna, Gopi Gopinath, Shyam Kund Radhakunda, Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Mathuram Ki Jai, Jagadava Swami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda, Haribol, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namni Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurani Pujani Nipashesha Sundari Paschacha Dejatarni. So, Om Gana Tumiranda Shah Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshudhan Medikam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurubhai Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge when I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So, we're going to continue with our Nectar Devotion study, and before we continue, we chant the prayers to one of the prayers of the six Goswamis of Vrindavan, written by Srinivas Acharya. Nana Shastra Vichara Naika Nipano Sadharma Samstapako Lokanham Hitakarano Tri Bhuvana Manyo Shadanya Karo Radha Krishna Padara Vinda Bhajana Mandena Mataliko Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyago Shri Jiva Gopala Ko. The translation is, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, namely Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they are honored all over the 3 worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of, because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. So we are going very quickly through the Nectar devotion. As I mentioned before, it's going to go slower towards this section and actually further sections of the Nectar devotion. In the book, we're up to 155, page 155, and the total book has, not including the indexes, hold on a second, the book has completely about, well, a lot of indexes, Sanskrit verses, about 410 pages. So we're actually making a lot of progress. Okay, let's continue with our Nectar devotion study. And here we go. Now, this chapter is entitled The Qualities of Sri Krishna. Now, let me remind you of what we read in the last chapter. We were talking about this section of, actually this whole section of Srimad Bhagavatam is about bhavas. Got it? Bhavas. Or emotions. And remember, we talked about the vibhavas, the stimulation for emotions. I know I'm going over this again and again and again, but it's a very important subject matter. Vibhavas, the stimulations for emotions. The anubhavas, the following expressions. When you feel happy, you have some emotion, or feel sad. Sattvika bhava, the constitutional ecstasies. The vyabhichari bhavas, sometimes called sanchari bhavas, which are the intermittent ecstasies, 33 of them, which are really intense, that you can't control. And finally, the sthai bhavas, which refer to your constitutional relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like Dasharas, Lakiras, Vatsalyaras, or Madhurya Ras. Okay. So this section of the Nectar devotion deals with bhavas. So now we're going to talk about the qualities of Sri Krishna. So these are stimulations, vibhavas, for ecstasy. So you should feel ecstasy when you hear about the qualities of Sri Krishna. That's what this chapter is about, chapter 21. And actually, several chapters about that. Okay. And devotees of Krishna, actually, there's several chapters we're talking about stimulations for ecstatic love. And therefore, qualities of Sri Krishna are being described. And the next few chapters are like this whole section is about bhavas, as I mentioned before. Symptoms of ecstasy, impetuses for Krishna's service. Anyway. All right, get ready. This is, I think, is the largest section. No, the first section is actually the largest section. So, qualities of Sri Krishna. Remember, these are things that stimulate our love for Krishna. When you hear about them, you become very excited. Personal features, that is of Krishna, can be divided into 2. One feature is covered and the other feature is manifested. When Krishna is covered by different kinds of dress, his personal feature is covered. That's going to be explained here. There's an example of his covered personal feature in Srimad Bhagavatam in connection with his Dwaraka Lila, his residence in Dwarka as its king. Sometimes Lord Krishna began to play by dressing himself like a woman. Seeing this form, Uddhava said, "How wonderful it is that this woman is attracting my ecstatic love exactly as Lord Krishna does. I think she must be Krishna, covered by the dress of a woman." Now, Krishna also did that in Vrindavan too, to sneak and be able to associate with Radharani. And sometimes Krishna manifested himself as the coward boys, as we talked about yesterday, during the Brahma Vimohana Leela, when Lord Brahma stole the calves and the coward boys. Then Krishna expanded himself and manifested himself as the calves and the coward boys. And everyone was in love with the calves and the coward boys as much as they were in love with Krishna previously. So that's a covered dress. Okay. One devotee praised the bodily features of Krishna when he saw the Lord in his manifest feature. That's a manifest feature. He exclaimed, "How wonderful is the personal feature of Lord Krishna! How his neck is just like a conch shell. His eyes are so beautiful, as though they themselves were encountering the beauty of the lotus flower. His body is just like the tamal tree, very blackish. His head is protected with a canopy of hair. There are the marks of Shrivats on his chest, and he is holding his conch shell. By such beautiful bodily features, the enemy of the demon Mahu has appeared so pleasing that he can bestow upon me transcendental bliss simply by my seeing his transcendental qualities." So in other words, there's the manifest qualities of Krishna and the covered qualities, when Krishna disguises himself. Okay. So, Srila Rupa Goswami, after consulting various scriptures, has enumerated the transcendental qualities of the Lord as follows. 1, beautiful features of the entire body. 2, marked with all auspicious characteristics. 3, extremely pleasing. 4, effulgent. 5, strong. 6, ever youthful, never gets old. 7, wonderful linguist. In fact, it's described that Krishna knew the languages of all the animals and plants and every living entity. 8, truthful. 9, talks pleasingly. 10, fluent. 11, highly learned. 12, highly intelligent. 13, a genius. 14, artistic. 15, extremely clever. 16, expert. 17, grateful. 18, firmly determined. 19, an expert judge of time and circumstances. 20, sees and speaks on the authority of the Vedas or scriptures. 21, pure. 22, self-control. 23, steadfast. 24, forbearing. 25, forgiving. 26, grave. 27, self-satisfied. 28, possessing equilibrium. 29, magnanimous. 30, religious. 31, heroic. 32, compassionate. 33, respectful. 34, gentle. 35, liberal. 36, shy. 37, the protector of surrendered souls. 38, happy. 39, the well-wisher of the devotees. 40, controlled by love. 41, all auspicious. 42, most powerful. 43, all famous. 44, popular. 45, partial to devotees. 46, very attractive to all women. 47, all worshipable. 48, all opulent. 49, all honorable. 50, the supreme controller. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has all these 50 transcendental qualities in fullness as deep as the ocean. In other words, the extent of his qualities is inconceivable. As parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, the individual living entities can also possess all these qualities in minute quantity, provided they become pure devotees of the Lord. In other words, all of the above transcendental qualities can be present in the devotees in minute quantity, whereas the qualities in fullness are always present in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because we are Krishna's parts and parcels. It's like a drop of ocean water. Let's say if the whole ocean was homogeneous, that means it was of the same constitution. It was a big body of water. If you take one drop, you can understand the constitution of the whole ocean by analyzing that one drop. Besides these, there are other transcendental qualities which are described by Lord Shiva to Parvati in the Padma Purana and in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam in connection with a conversation between the deity of the earth and the king of religion, Yamaraj. It is said therein, persons who are desirous of becoming great personalities must be decorated with the following qualities: truthfulness, cleanliness, mercy, perseverance, renunciation, peacefulness, simplicity, control of the senses, equilibrium of the mind, austerity, equality, forbearance, placidity, learning, knowledge, detachment, opulence, chivalry, influence, strength, memory, independence, tactfulness, luster, patience, kindheartedness, ingenuity, gentility, mannerliness, determination, perfection in all knowledge, proper execution, possession of all objects of enjoyment, gravity, steadiness, faithfulness, fame, respectfulness, and lack of false egotism. Persons who are desiring to become great souls cannot be without any of the above qualities, so we can know for certain that these qualities are to be found in Lord Krishna, the Supreme Soul. And we'll test you all and see if you remember them all later on. Besides all these above-mentioned 50 qualities, Lord Krishna possesses 5 more, which are sometimes partially manifested in persons of Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva. These transcendental qualities are as follows: 51, changeless; 52, all cognizant; 53, refresh; 54, Satchidananda, possessing an eternal blissful body; and 55, possessing all mystic perfections. Krishna also possesses 5 other qualities which are manifest in the body of Narayan, and they are listed as follows: 56, his inconceivable potency; 57, uncountable universes generate from his body; 58, he's the original source of all incarnations; 59, he's the giver of salvation to the enemies whom he kills; and 60, he is the attractor of liberated souls. All these transcendental qualities are manifest wonderfully in the personal feature of Lord Krishna. Now, I was joking when I said you have to memorize all these 60, but the next 4 you got to memorize, because the next 4 qualities we're going to talk about are what differentiates Krishna from every single other expansion of his. These 4 qualities are only manifest by Krishna in Raj, Vrindavan, Mathura Mando, because these 4 qualities have to do with intimate relationships. Besides these 60 transcendental qualities, Krishna has 4 more which are not manifest even the Narayan form of Godhead, what to speak of the demigods or living entities. They are as follows. He is the performer of wonderful varieties of pastimes, especially his childhood pastimes. In other words, that means he acts like an ordinary person. Narayan generally doesn't act like an ordinary person. Lord Nrsimhadev doesn't act like an ordinary person. Lord Brahma doesn't act like an ordinary person. So, in other words, he has these pastimes, doing things like an ordinary person to enjoy in this world, especially, as Prabhupada and Rupa Goswami point out, his childhood pastimes. So that's only there with Krishna in Braj, Vrindavan. Remember that. 62, he is surrounded by devotees endowed with wonderful love of Godhead, intimate love of God. Devotees who assume a superior position to than Krishna, so that Krishna can interact with them in an intimate way. Very, very important. 63, he can attract all living entities all over the universe by playing on his flute. And this morning we were talking about Krishna's flute in Bhagavatam class. We were preaching on a verse from the 21st chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And the 21st chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is entitled the Venu Gita. That means the song of the flute. And there's so much information about Krishna's flute in the works of Rupa Goswami. Not only Nectar of Devotion, we're going to read some of these quotes from Nectar of Devotion in a little while. but also in the Vedanta Madhava, Lita Madhava, in the works of Kavi Karnapur, in the works of, let's see, Jiva Goswami as Gopal Champu. Actually, practically all the Vaishnavas who wrote about the Vrindavan pastimes spend a lot of time describing Krishna's flute and the effects that Krishna's flute has on his devotees. And 64, he has a wonderful excellence of beauty which cannot be rivaled anywhere in the creation. Even he is more beautiful, more attractive than Narayan. That's why in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a pastime where Lord Vishnu, Narayan, makes a trick so that he can see Krishna because he's attracted to Krishna. And even Krishna is attracted to himself. When he sees a reflection of himself in a body of water, he becomes stunned and he says, "Who is this attractive boy? Wow, he is really attractive." And that's not false ego. False ego means to be attracted to ourselves because of something we are not. For example, if I go, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the most attractive sannyasi of them all?" And that's false ego because, why? Because I'm not this body. That's false identification with the body. Also false identification with my sannyasa ashram. That's also false. I'm not a sannyasi, I'm a spirit soul. Anyway, but Krishna is his body. There's no difference, there's no duality between Krishna and his body. So when Krishna looks at his beautiful self, he's looking at himself. And when we look at our beautiful, no, not beautiful, obnoxious self, no, not obnoxious, but at our Panchamaha Bhuta self, that's a better explanation. Panchamaha Bhuta means earth, water, fire, air, ether, the five grosser elements. Or if you really want to get gross, skin, hair, nails, bones, pus, mucus. Anyway, sorry about that. And so when we look at a reflection of this body, which we consider to be ourselves, that reflection is not ourselves. And when we think it's attractive, that is false ego. Because first of all, it's not attractive, and second of all, it's not us. Okay. So, adding to the list of these four exceptional qualities of Krishna, it is to be understood that the aggregate number of qualities of Krishna is 64. Srila Rupa Goswami has attempted to give evidence from various scriptures about all 64 qualities present in the person of the Supreme Lord. So now we're going to go through these descriptions. Whoops. Anyway, somehow I skipped to something. Hold on a second. My screen skipped. Okay. So, first we're going to talk about beautiful bodily features. Any comparison of the different parts of the Lord's body to different material objects cannot factually be a complete comparison. Ordinary persons who cannot understand how exalted are the bodily features of the Lord are simply given a chance to understand by a material comparison. It is said that Krishna's face is as beautiful as the moon. His thighs as powerful, just like the trunks of elephants. His arms are just like two pillars. His palms are expanded like lotus flowers. His chest is just like a doorway. His hips are dens, and the middle of his body is a terrace. These are basic material comparisons just to give us a hint as to how Krishna looks. Just like we use this term often, lotus. Krishna has lotus eyes. Now, in one sense, his eyes can be, even a literal sense, compared to lotuses because they're shaped like lotuses, not shaped like little round, beady things like most of our eyes. That's true. But the reason the word lotus is used in regard to so many places on the Lord's body is that the lotus is a very beautiful flower. When we say lotus feet, his feet don't look like a lotus flower. But there's some comparison, such as the delicate colors of a lotus flower and the shifting of one color to another on a lotus flower. So there are some comparisons. Let me just knock this thing out. Hold on a second. There are some people trying to send me messages on my computer, which I am not enthusiastic about in the middle of class. Anyway, so then auspicious characteristics. There are certain characteristics of different limbs which are considered to be very auspicious and are fully present in the body of the Lord. In this connection, one friend of Nanda Maharaj, speaking about Lord Krishna's auspicious bodily symptoms, said, "My dear king of the cowards, I can find 32 auspicious symptoms on the body of your son. I'm wondering how this boy could have taken his birth in a family of coward men." Generally, when Lord Krishna appears, he does so in a family of Kshatriyas, kings, as did Lord Ramchandra, and sometimes in a family of Brahmanas. But Krishna accepted the role of the son to Nanda Maharaj, despite the fact that Nanda belonged to the Vaishya community. The business of the Vaishya community is trade, commerce, and protection of cows. Therefore, his friend, who may have been born into a Brahmin family, expressed his wonder at how such an exalted child could take birth in a family of Vaishyas. Anyway, he pointed out the auspicious signs on the body of Krishna to the boy's foster father. So that's Nanda Maharaj. Remember why Nanda Maharaj is Krishna's foster father? I mean, I guess I got to tell you all the whole story. That when Krishna appeared in Mathura. Krishna appeared in Mathura, and he appeared in a prison house, and he had to be transported through the Yamuna River, and the gates of the prison had to open up by the energy, the Yogamaya, the Supreme Personality of God, and he was transported to the house of Nanda Maharaj, and he was switched for Nanda Maharaj's daughter. And so therefore Krishna is considered to be the foster son of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda. However, there's a different angle to that story which was told by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And that angle is that Krishna is not actually the foster son of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda. What the truth is that Krishna was born from Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. And that's interesting. And when Krishna's expansion was brought from Mathura to Vrindavan, the expansion actually entered into the original Krishna. I know that's really hard to understand. Anyway, and so Krishna was always there in Vrindavan. Because Krishna's expansions expand from him. And they can enter into him or appear with him. But anyway, when you have Krishna, you have all of his expansions simultaneously. So Krishna was actually the son of Yashoda. And Vasudeva Krishna, that is, Krishna, who is Vasudeva's son, was an expansion of Brajendra Nandana, who is Nanda Maharaj's son. I know that's hard to understand. He continued, "This boy has a reddish luster in 7 places: his eyes, the ends of his hands, the ends of his legs, his palate, his lips, his tongue, and his nails. A reddish luster in these 7 places is to be considered auspicious." Now, don't go checking your body to see if it has a reddish luster in those 7 places, because most of our bodies are not auspicious, and they're not spiritual bodies. But there are certain ways by which an expert person, I forget the exact word of someone who analyzes the physiognomy, I think it's called. A person who analyzes the different parts of the body can see if the parts of the body are auspicious in the proper proportions. 3 parts of his body are very broad: his waist, forehead, and chest. 3 parts of his body are short: his neck, thighs, and genitals. 3 parts of his body are very deep: his voice, intelligence, and navel. There is business. There is highness in 5 parts of his body: his nose, arms, ears, forehead, and thighs. In 5 parts of his body, there is fineness: his skin, the hairs on his head, and the other parts of his body, his teeth, and his fingertips. The aggregate of all these bodily features is manifest only in the bodies of great personalities. There's another sign that great personalities manifest sometimes, it's not mentioned here, is that the arms, when one is standing up, they reach down basically almost to the knees. Long arms. That's a sign of us. It's an auspicious sign, as well as the eyes, lotus eyes, and things like that. It's described that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur had all these auspicious signs too. Not all the same ones Krishna had, but the auspicious signs that indicate a great personality. The faint lines on the palm are also considered to be auspicious bodily symptoms. In this connection, one old gopi informed King Nanda, "Your son possesses various wonderful faint lines on his palms. There are the signs of lotus flowers and wheels on his palms and on his soles. There are the signs of a flag, a thunderbolt, a fish, a rod for controlling elephants, and a lotus flower. Please observe how auspicious these signs are." So these are descriptions of Krishna's transcendental body. So the next one is pleasing. Beautiful bodily features which automatically attract the eyes are called ruchira, pleasing. Krishna possesses this attractive feature of ruchira in his personal features. In the 3rd canto, 2nd chapter, verse 13 of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a statement about this. The Supreme Personality of Godhead in his pleasing dress appeared at the scene of the sacrificial arena when King Yudhisthira was performing the Rajasuya sacrifice. All important personalities from different parts of the universe had been invited to the sacrificial arena. And all of them, upon beholding Krishna there, considered that the Creator had ended all of his craftsmanship in the creation of this particular body of Krishna. It is said that the transcendental body of Krishna resembles the lotus flower in 8 parts, namely his face, his 2 eyes, his 2 hands, his navel, and his 2 feet. The gopis and inhabitants of Vrindavan used to see the luster of lotus flowers everywhere, and they could hardly withdraw their eyes from such a vision. Next quality, effulgence. That means bright, extremely bright. The effulgence pervading the universe is considered to be the rays of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The supreme abode of Krishna is always throwing off the effulgence known as the Brahmajyoti, and that effulgence is emanating from his body. In fact, the impersonalists, Mayavadis, or what have you, they want to merge into this Brahmajyoti, but the Brahmajyoti is composed. What is it composed of? Not little fireflies. It's composed of jiva souls who were floating there who wanted to merge into the Brahmajyoti. But those jiva souls who were floating there do not become one. They maintain their individuality, and ultimately they fall out of the Brahmajyoti and they come back to the earth planet or some other planet. And that effulgence is emanated from his body. The luster of the hosts of jewels fixed on the chest of the Lord can defeat even the luster of the sun, and still, when compared with the bodily luster of the Lord, that crest of jewels appears to be only as bright as one of the stars in the sky. Therefore, the transcendental influence of Krishna is so great that it can defeat anyone. When Krishna was present in the sacrificial arena of his enemy King Kamsa, the wrestlers present, although appreciating the sovereignty of Sri Krishna, were afraid and perturbed when they thought of engaging with him in battle. Effulgence, strong. Is called Valiyan. When Krishna killed Arishtashura, some of the gopis said, "My dear stabilizes. Now it's stabilized, I think. Some of the gopis said, "My dear friend, just see how Krishna has killed Arishtashura. Although he was stronger than a mountain, Krishna plucked him up just like a piece of cotton and threw him away without any difficulty." There is another passage wherein it is said, "O my dear devotees of Lord Krishna, may the left hand of Lord Krishna, which is lifted Govardhan Hill like a ball, save you from all dangers." So, two stories. Arishtashura was a bull demon, and Krishna thrashed him and killed him. And Krishna was accused of killing a bull after he killed the bull demon, because one is not allowed to kill a bovine animal. Now, if you don't know what bovine is, that means a cow or a bull, because cows and bulls are sacred. A cow is like our mother. Harm one, no one is allowed to harm in the shape of a bull. The gopis, understanding the Vedic culture, said to Krishna, "We're not going near you because you have killed a bull. The only way you can repent, prayaschita, atone, is by bathing in all the holy places." So Krishna, he was very intelligent. That was where Arishtashura's hoof was. He called by his spiritual potency for all the holy places. He said, "All the holy places and holy rivers, holy oceans, holy rivers, please appear." And they all appeared and filled up what was called Shaimakund. And Krishna took a bath in it and said, "Now I'm purified. And you gopis, if you like, you can take a bath in my kund or my pond." And they said, "No, no, no. We are..." And so they dug up with, I guess, with their earrings or anklets or whatever they had. And Krishna said, "You can use my water to fill your pond if you want." And they said, "No, your water is contaminated." So they tried to make like a brigade. That's what they used to call the fire department, the fire brigade. They tried to make a brigade of, different pots bringing water from another pond, which was called the Manasa Ganga. And then they were not successful. And basically, all the holy places, in a personified form, prayed to Radharani to allow them to fill her kund. And so the holy places, let's say, overflooded from Krishna's kund, Shama kund, to Radharani's kund, which is called Radha kund. And then Krishna said, "From this day forward, I will bathe in your kund every day." And Radharani said, "From this day forward, I will bathe in your kund." And that's the killed the demon, Vatsasura. And the coward boys were around at that particular point. And the coward boys said to Krishna, "We're not going to go near you. You got to go to the Ganges." Because they weren't so demanding as the gopis were. I mean, the gopis were quite demanding. They wanted Krishna to go to all the holy places. But the coward boys just said, "Go to the Ganges." And Krishna said, "I'm not going to go to the Ganges." And he created the Ganges by his meditation, his mystic power, through his mind. And that Ganges is still there in Braj, and it's called the Manasa Ganga. Okay. And Krishna bathed in it, and he became purified. Of course, he was always purified, but he proved that he was bathed in the Ganges. And then the coward boys agreed to associate with him. Okay. So, in other words, very important to protect cows, calves, bulls, and all those other nice animals. Okay, and then the other story was the story of Govardhan Hill. Govardhan Hill and therefore kill all the residents of Braj. So Krishna's capable of doing anything. I mean, if you ever had a Superman, The internet's unstable again. Hold on a second. Let it regain its stability. Because the internet has some psychological problems today. So, another quality is ever youthful. Of course, that's mentioned in the Brahma Samhita. Navayovanam cha. And even we say that when Krishna appeared at the battle of Kurukshetra, and Krishna was on the earth for about 125 years, he did not look old with gray hair or anything. He looked like a 16-year-old youth. So Krishna is beautiful at his different ages, namely his childhood, his boyhood, and his youth. And that's it. Doesn't get any older than that. There's no chara for Krishna. Like chara means old age. Although sometimes in other religions, out of these three, his youth is the reservoir of all pleasures and is the time when the highest varieties of devotional service are acceptable. At that age, Krishna is full with all transcendental qualities and is engaged in his transcendental pastimes. Therefore, devotees have accepted the beginning of his youth as his most attractive feature in ecstatic love. Of course, Krishna has all of his qualities all the time. It's not that he doesn't have the qualities until he reaches youth. Krishna has all the qualities all the time. It's just that he doesn't generally manifest the youthful qualities until he reaches youth, although there are some exceptions. And we were reading about that this morning when Krishna plays his flute, even though he was very, very young at that point, before youth, he manifested youth just for that particular pastime. At this age, Krishna is described of the full moon. He was always nicely decorated, in beauty surpassing even Cupid, and he was always attracting the minds of the gopis, who were thereby always feeling pleasure. Wonderful linguist. Rupa Goswami says that a person who knows the languages of different countries, especially the Sanskrit language, which is spoken in the cities of the demigods, that's why it's called Devanagari, as well as other worldly languages, including those of the animals, is called a wonderful linguist. It appears from this statement that Krishna can also speak and understand the languages of the animals. An old woman in Vrindavan, present at the time of Krishna's pastimes, once stated in surprise, "How wonderful it is that Krishna, who owns the hearts of all the young girls of Brajabhumi, can nicely speak the language of Brajabhumi with the gopis, while in Sanskrit he speaks with the demigods, and in the language and with the parrots and other birds, as well as in most common languages. Krishna is so expressive." She inquired from the gopis as to how Krishna had become so expert in speaking so many different types of languages. Now remember, this was before Krishna went to school. Because Krishna actually went to school after he left Vrindavan. And he went to school in the ashram of Sandipani Muni in Ujjain. That's in Madhya Pradesh. So Krishna didn't have to go to school to learn anything. Truthful. A person whose word of honor is never broken is called truthful. Krishna once promised Kunti, the mother of the Pandavas, that he would bring her 5 sons back from the battlefield of Kurukshetra. After the battle was finished, when all the Pandavas had come home, Kunti praised Krishna because his promise was so nicely fulfilled. She said, "Even the sunshine may one day become cool, and the moonshine one day become hot, but still your promise will not fail." Similarly, when Krishna, along with Bhima and Arjuna, went to challenge Jarasandha, he plainly told Jarasandha that he was the eternal Krishna present along with 2 of the Pandavas. The story is that both Krishna and the Pandavas, in this case, Bhima and Arjuna, were Kshatriyas, warrior kings. Jarasandha was also a Kshatriya and was very charitable toward the Brahmanas. Thus Krishna, who had planned to fight with Jarasandha, went to him with Bhima and Arjuna in the dress of Brahmanas. Jarasandha, being very charitable towards the Brahmanas, asked them what they wanted, and they expressed their desire to fight with him. Then Krishna, dressed as a Brahmana, declared himself to be the same Krishna who was the king's eternal enemy. And actually, that story is in the 10th canto. It's a beautiful story. In very short form, it's as follows. That Maharaj Yudhisthira wanted to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice. In order to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice, one has to get the other kings all over to accept him as the emperor. So all the kings were accepting Maharaj Yudhisthira, except for Jarasandha. And Jarasandha was in the province of Magadha. And he was able to, he was so strong, he could fight with many elephants at the same time. No one could defeat him. And actually, the only person who was meant to defeat him was Bhimsen. So Krishna hatched a plan, like he usually does. He dressed as a Brahmin, Arjuna dressed as a Brahmin, and Bhimsen dressed as a Brahmin. And they all went to see Jarasandha. Jarasandha was very hospitable to the Brahmanas, and he said, "What do you want?" Of course, he was noticing they weren't real Brahmanas because he could see the bow marks on their arms. He could see the muscles. Generally, Brahmanas don't look like Rambo or, some muscle-bound person. And so he said, "What do you want? Just ask for anything." That's the charitable disposition even demons at Krishna's time had towards Brahmanas. And they said, "Well, we want to fight with you. Just pick one of us who can fight with you." And Krishna, of course, revealed, "I'm your enemy, Krishna. And this is Bhimsen, and this is Arjuna." And so Jarasandha said, "Arjuna's too weak. Krishna, you're a coward." So Bhimsen looks like he can fight with me. So they had this fight, but it went on for many, many, many days. I think it was 28 days. Went on for many, many days. And each day, when the day was over, interestingly enough, because they followed the pattern and the rules of Kshatriya Dharma, which is very chivalrous, when the day was over, they all took prasadam together in the evening. I'm not sure if it was prasadam. But anyway, they all ate together in the evening and just joked with each other. This is chivalry. In other words, they somehow or other had like a friendly relationship at night and a fighting relationship during the day. And finally, Bhimsen was able to kill Jarasandha, but utilizing a very interesting technique. Because Jarasandha could not be killed by ordinary means. Why couldn't he not be killed by ordinary means? Because when he was born, actually, his father had two queens, and each queen gave birth half a body. Ooh, pretty bad. Imagine having a kid, half a body, or two half bodies from different ladies. Whew, pretty disgusting. So the king thought, these half bodies are useless. Let's throw these two half bodies in the forest. So he threw them in the forest, and there was a lady there. Well, not just an ordinary lady, she was a witch. Her name was Jara. And she saw these two half bodies, and she thought, maybe I can eat them. And she was playing with them, put them together, and they formed one body. Ooh, and that body came alive. And she thought, wow, this is actually the king's son. Let me bring this body, this person, back to the king, and that was Jarasandha. Jarasandha means the person who the witch Jara joined together. Anyway, so the only way Jarasandha could be killed is if he was bifurcated again, split down the middle. And so, as Bhimsen was fighting with Jarasandha, he didn't know that at the beginning. It appeared to be a pretty even fight. And then Krishna motioned to Bhimsen, taking a little twig and splitting the twig down the middle and throwing the two pieces away. But not only throwing the two pieces away, but throwing the two pieces in opposite directions. Because if Bhimsen took the two pieces of Jarasandha's body and just put them next to each other, they would come together again. And in fact, they did. So Krishna finally indicated you got to throw them in opposite directions so they can't come together, and that's what happened. Jarasandha was killed. and King Yudhisthira was able to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice. Anyway, so that's the story of Jarasandha. And that story is in the Mahabharata. That story is in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 10th canto. Beautiful story. Quite an amazing story. Okay. Whoops, I think we have to end. So we had so much fun telling the story of Jarasandha. Jarasandha is a very nice. Oh, of course, Jarasandha had also imprisoned a lot of kings who refused to accept his supremacy. I think it was 10,000 or 10 million kings who refused to accept his supremacy, and he was getting ready to offer them to the goddess to gain more power. And then Krishna came and he rescued all these kings, and these kings swore allegiance to Maharaj Yudhisthira and Krishna after that. Okay, on that happy note, nice story of Jarasandha, the person who was joined together by the witch named Jara. So many nice stories. Okay, so now we're going to take some questions from you all. All right. Oh, someone asked a question. Let me get the chat question first. Hold on a second, Dito. What mindset as devotees should we have when hearing and learning about the personal characteristics of the Supreme Lord, especially in Kanishta Adhikari? The mindset, the reason these personal characteristics of the Supreme Lord are being mentioned is so that we can become attracted. They can stimulate our bhavas. Now, you may not be on the platform of bhava, but you can still have some spiritual notions. Become very happy hearing the qualities of Krishna. When one hears about the qualities of Krishna, one loses the desire to, let's say, think about one's own qualities. I mean, when I'm reading this, before I read this chapter, I used to think I was wonderful, but now, after reading this chapter, I think, oh my God, I am nothing compared to Krishna. Anyway, so that's why we can actually appreciate at least the greatness of Krishna. Let me just mark where we left off so I know where to continue tomorrow. Jarasandha. Here it is. Okay, so we hear about these. Yes, we may be Kanishta Adhikaris, we may be beginning devotees, but hearing about Krishna's qualities or seeing the beautiful form of Krishna helps us become attracted to Krishna and give up our attraction for people of this world. I mean, it's a fact. How much more attractive Krishna, how much more attractive his eyes are. Like we described that story the other day. Some of you may not have been there. This guy was attracted by his girlfriend's eyes, so he was taken by a great devotee, Ramanujacharya, to see the deities. He saw the deities and the eyes of the deities, and he lost all interest in his girlfriend's eyes after that point. So if you are attracted to someone's eyes, there's the song, oh, what beautiful eyes, what great big beautiful eyes. I don't know if any of you know that song from the 1960s. If you were attracted, just go to see the eyes of Krishna. That's all. And then, just like Rupa Goswami says, if you'd all desire to enjoy society, friendship, and love, don't go to see Krishna playing his flute on the banks of the Yamuna. So, and actually that's the way to overcome this sex attraction, is to see the beautiful features of Krishna. Who can compare or hear about the beautiful features of Krishna? Who can compare with Krishna? Okay, there's another question here. What is the significance of the fish mark on Krishna's palm? Sorry, I don't remember. I don't remember that fish mark. It doesn't mean that Krishna eats fish. It's just there's some significance. Perhaps someone knows the significance of it, but it's not one of the things I remember. So, someone else has a question. Can someone else speak?
Hare
Okay.
Krishna.
Oh, all right. We have a competition. Krishna Lila. Okay.
Hare Krishna Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances. I have a question from actually yesterday's class, a very quick
Okay.
one. Yesterday you mentioned that the ultimate quality of advanced devotee is they do the service for to please Krishna and in the happiness of Krishna. That is
Yeah.
always in their mind. Now
Mhm.
you also mentioned one very important point there, that please do not imitate that. Now, my question is that how do we define that imitate? And how would we know that we are not actually imitating and we are doing in this pleasing Krishna?
How do we know? We have to be a little introspective to understand our own motivation. That means look in our hearts and try to understand. Let's see, someone is not on mute. Uh, Someone is not on mute who is speaking. Anyway, so try to understand what is our motivation. Why am I doing what I'm doing? And is it? And don't lie to yourself. Imitation in this particular regard would mean lying to oneself and thinking that I'm doing this just to please Krishna. I only, like we were reciting the Shikshashika verses in the morning. Krishna, you may crush me by your embrace. You may leave me brokenhearted by not being present before me. You're completely free to do anything and everything, and you always remain my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Now, it's good we're reciting these verses, but if you actually think that you're on that level, maybe it is true. Maybe you are on that level, but then you're in trouble. So the whole point is to be honest. In this particular case, be honest, and therefore, because we understand we're not on that level, understand the dangers we have in this world. Because one who thinks that they're on a higher level or imitates those who are on a higher level of devotional service can become prey to Krishna's illusory energy very, very easily. First of all, they'll be prideful, and as we know, pride comes before the fall. And secondly, they'll let their guard down. If I think, for example, oh, I'm a great pure devotee, I'm aloof, I'm not attracted by Krishna's illusory energy, I'm able to do anything and everything, and then boom! You understand? Like
Yeah.
Prabhupada said, the problem with us is that we're not enough afraid of Maya. So that's what it means. To imitate a pure devotee means to actually think that one is aloof from Krishna's material energy. And even a pure devotee doesn't think that they're aloof from Krishna's material energy. A pure devotee is humble. So the main problem is the loss of humility or pride. So one has to be careful about imitating. Of course, we can aspire. We can say, I aspire to be causeless in my devotional service. But even that may not be truthful. We could say, I aspire to aspire. And if that's not truthful, I aspire to aspire to aspire. If that's not truthful, I aspire to aspire to aspire to aspire. And if I say one more, I'm going to say perspire instead of aspire, so I have to be careful. So at least what we can do is serve a great devotee, and ultimately we will come to that platform. Mahat Seva Mahorvi Muktes. If one serves a Mahatma, a pure devotee, then one comes to that platform automatically. But the main thing is humility. Trinadapi Sunuchina so Tarori Vasahishana Manina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahare. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, ready to offer all respects to others, more tolerant, yes, and more tolerant than a tree. And this, in such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. In other words, humbler, lower than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. So these are the qualities we should aspire for and not consider ourselves to be very advanced devotees. We should serve the advanced devotees.
Thank
Okay?
you so much. Thank you so much, Gurudev. That's really
All
helpful.
right. Thank you for the nice question. All right. Next devotee.
Uh,
Abhay Chaitanya. Okay. Praneshra, you had a that's your turn, Praneshra.
yes. Yeah,
Okay.
my question is like from today class, Jarasandha is like, he makes the many kings and in the prison halls,
Yes.
and he is also following the Kshatriya dharma in that at the time of fighting with Bhim.
Yeah.
So what we should learn from him?
What you learned from him? Don't put many kings in. Well, you should learn from him that even if you have no devotion for Krishna, all the other aspects of Dharma that you follow are completely useless. That's what we could learn from him. He was dharmic, serving the Brahmin. Of course, it wasn't so dharmic sacrificing the other kings. That's not too dharmic. So, in other words, he picked and chose which aspects of the Vedic culture he wanted. And devotees do that too. I see devotees pick and choose like some spiritual smorgasbord. Of course, you don't know what that means. But anyway, they pick and choose different aspects of Krishna consciousness they want to follow, and they don't accept the aspects they don't want to follow. Isn't it? I mean, it's just like, just that's why they always say, what is that? They say, oh, Gurudev, we love you, Gurudev. And Gurudev says, can you do this? And they say, no, Gurudev. So, this picking and choosing. Yeah, it's nice. I pick and choose what I want to follow, and what I don't want to follow, I don't follow. So that's what Jarasandha was doing. That's his problem. And also, he's cruel, puffed up, everything like that. So, but at least he respected Brahmanas. So, who else has a question?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. It's just a question about, how. Thank you. Just Krishna, how his age is always youthful. He's always youthful. Is that true for other incarnations like Lord Ram as well?
Yes. Lord Ram never looks like an old man.
I've never seen any pictures like that either.
Yeah, Lord Ram is always very youthful. And, of course, Sita Devi too, Radharani too, Lakshmi. I mean, you never see Lakshmi as an old grandmother, do you?
No.
Because they are spiritual bodies. So the best time of life is youth. Youth means like 16, 18. After that, it's all downhill. For those of you who are older than 16 or 18, it's all downhill, especially when you hit 40, it's just like, whatever happened to me? And then 50 is, oh my God. And 70, like I am, is just like, what happened to my youth? And then when you're my age, you just look at pictures of yourself. You spend half the day looking at pictures of yourself as a youth. It's just lament. And then you say, oh, I gave all my youth to Krishna. What did I get for it? An old body.
Eternal bliss.
Anyway, so Krishna, Lord Ram, all the incarnations. Lord Nrsimhadev never has gray hair on his transcendental mane body.
Yeah.
So they're all very youthful.
Wow.
It's only in the Christian liturgy that you have God depicted as an old man, like I mentioned.
Old tired man.
Yeah, in the Sistine Chapel, which is a famous chapel in Italy, you have Michelangelo, who is a famous artist. He painted a picture of God as an old man reaching out to Adam to give him the spark of life, like that.
Yeah.
So God is always youthful. Why would he want to appear as an old man?
Thank you.
It's pretty miserable. If I had to appear, I would appear as a young person. If I had to choose, because that's the time for enjoyment. This is a time for loving exchanges. A time for just like sporting activities. Just like I was talking to one of my friends here, who's in a cricket league. Of course, you know what cricket is. And he was describing how they
Yeah.
have a special league for 50-year-old men. Yeah, they can't compete with the 30-year-olders or the 20-year-olders. So,
thank you, Guru Maharaj.
I'll tell you a funny story about cricket. One time I was going around Govardhan Hill. This is when I was young, because people wouldn't believe it now. I was going around Govardhan Hill, and the young kids were actually just like bothering me. They were just like teasing me or something. And I actually told them, I said, look, I'm an Australian cricket player, and this is what I do before I have a match to pray to Giri Raj. And they basically, they all offered their obeisances to me right after I said that. It was like Krishna appeared to them. I had to say Australian because in America we don't have any good cricket players. So
yes.
I wouldn't believe that. So
thank you, Maharaj.
Cricket is the Indian religion. All right. Any other quick questions?
Krishna Guru.
Haribal, Sita. Hare Krishna.
I have a simple question. You mentioned that Krishna was born from Yashoda Mai. So who was the girl that Maya who could exchange for Krishna?
That was Yogamaya.
Yogamaya. Okay.
Yogamaya. Actually, Yashoda Mai gave birth to two children, Krishna and Yogamaya. And when Vasudeva brought Krishna to Vrindavan from Mathura, his Krishna, which is Vasudeva Krishna, entered into, he didn't see it, he was covered by Yogamaya, merged into Krishna that was the son of Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. And then he thought he had just put his Krishna down, Vasudeva Krishna down, and he grabbed the girl who was Yogamaya. Okay. And also, Yogamaya manifested herself as Durga when Kamsa tried to kill her. Because Yogamaya, Durga is an expansion of Yogamaya. She had 8 arms, and she said, when Kamsa tried to kill her by throwing her in the air, she actually flew in the air, and she said to Kamsa, the one who was supposed to kill you has already been born in Vrindavan. And that was, of course, that was Durga or Yogamaya expansion of Yogamaya. Okay, I think we have to end. Okay, just one announcement. We sent out some announcements about the Vyas Puja at different times for people in Fiji, Australia, New Zealand, and Europe and India, and different times for people in South and North America. You're all invited to attend both of them or one of them or either one you want to attend. It's dependent on your time factors. If you really want to attend the one in America, you can attend the one in America. It's not going to be that hard for you to attend if you're in Fiji, Australia, New Zealand, because that's going to be in the evening in America, in the early morning in Australia, Fiji, and New Zealand. But those of us in America can't attend the ones that are specifically for Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji, because that's at 3 o'clock in the morning, except for me. I will attend, hopefully, at 3 o'clock in the morning. And the way we're going to do this, just so you understand, is that those countries that are later will go first as far as making their offerings. In other words, the country with the latest time zone is New Zealand. When we start here at 3 o'clock in the morning, New Zealand will actually be 8 o'clock at night. So they'll be the first persons who do the offerings. And then after that, after New Zealand, will be Fiji. And after Fiji, there will be New South Wales. And then after New South Wales, there will be the Brisbane area, because they're an hour earlier. because they're not on daylight savings time. Of course, New South Wales, I'm including Victoria. That's the same thing. Victoria, New South Wales, the same time zone. And then Brisbane area will come. And then after that, rolling Vyaspuja. And after that will be India. And after that will be Europe. So each area of the world will take have a certain time slot. And I will be online from 3 o'clock in the morning probably until 10 o'clock in the morning. Which is quite a bit, long time. Anyway, that's life. And that's on Tuesday. And then Sunday we're just having one program that will last about 2 hours or two or 3 hours, 4 to 6, 6:30 or something like that in the evening, East Coast time. Hopefully the weather will be good so we can actually have some devotees on the scene. We're going to try to do it outside on our lawn. We have a very big lawn. We have 16 acres, so everybody can be separate and not breathe on each other and give each other the virus. So we can have a safe situation, hopefully. Okay, on that happy note, all glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada ki